Yesterday, President Trump sending a dire warning to the governor and threatening to send the feds in if he can't clean it up himself. Joining me now is Dinesh D'Souza, conservative commentator and filmmaker. Dinesh, this is what California Governor Gavin Newsom said last week about the Trump administration. Listen to this.
They're not serious about this issue. They're playing politics with it. Expect nothing but division coming and emanating from the folks at HUD and the Trump administration.
I mean, really, is that the problem here, Dinesh?
Well, the problem is not merely that homelessness seems to have had this upsurge or epidemic, as you call it. It's that in Democratic-run cities, they appear not only to do nothing about it, but almost to be coddling and cultivating the problem, making it in many ways worse and refusing to take even elementary steps to deal with it. I grew up, by the way, in Bombay, India. It was a normal sight in India, as in other third world countries, to see people urinating, defecating in public. This was kind of a disgusting memory of my youth. And now I find that it's come to America. Today, if I feel nostalgic for the old country, not that I do, but if I did, I don't have to go to Mumbai to watch this. I can go to LA, I can go to San Francisco. So these cities are being sort of third worldized by the Democratic leadership that has, like I say, they've not just ignored the problem, they've almost cultivated it.
No, if you look at the states where the fastest rising homelessness problem is, they're all run by Democrats. New York, Hawaii, California, Oregon, and the state of Washington. In San Francisco, they're going to spend, just the city, $94 million. That's, as I think if we did the math right, $257,000 a day. And they're losing ground in this fight. What should happen? What should there be do? What should leaders actually do?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is how we got here now, because a lot of people naively might think, oh, wow, isn't this terrible? All these Americans walking around without homes. Now, the truth of the matter is that the majority of homeless people are either drug addicts or they're alcoholics. Now, in earlier decades in America, there were treatment programs. These people were confined. They were given medical care. They were given drug treatment. And then the Supreme Court and other courts in the 80s and 90s basically said, you can't keep these people against their will. Even if it's for their own good, you're violating their civil rights, you got to let them go. And so the homeless problem was, in a sense, you may say, almost created, you may say, by liberal jurisprudence. So liberal jurisprudence creates the problem, and then democratic cities turn the homeless almost into a constituency. So it's, in a way, it's almost silly to ask what should be done, because none of the people who are in a position to do anything about it have any intention to do anything about it. Not that they lack prosecutorial power. They'll go after you if you're using a plastic straw or you jaywalk on the street. But if a homeless guy walks up to a guy eating in a restaurant and picks up the chicken leg off his plate and starts eating it, or hassling people in a neighborhood, there's virtually nothing you can do, and that's the way that the Democratic leadership wants it.
Well, and I think what's sad here, there are certainly people who find themselves in poverty. They lose a job, go through a divorce, they may have financial problems. I mean, that is a portion of it. But where you see the rapid growth in an economy from coast to coast in this country that is zooming ahead at all-time record levels, I think that point you made that I hope everybody understands is this is not necessarily primarily driven by poverty. It's driven in large part by these liberal policies that are allowing this and ultimately cultivating this, right, Dinesh?
I mean, a very good experiment is if you walk up to a homeless guy who says he's hungry and you offer him an apple, I give you 50-50 odds that he will throw that apple at your face. If you offer him a job, obscenities are going to come your way. And what this is kind of telling you is that you're dealing with a different kind of problem than we might naively assume. It's not just that these guys need a meal. It's not just that they need a job. Part of what's going on is that these are people who in some fundamental ways have become dysfunctional in our society, and the things that we need to do to reintegrate them, to treat them, to train them, those are things that our political leadership has no interest in doing. They, in a way, almost rather have them as a dependent constituency that they can count on politically.